Hey there. Ever stop and wonder if there's some kind of, deeper connection to our whole modern wellness culture? Well, today we're diving into the really surprising philosophy that connects things like organic farms, holistic health, and even that plant-based burger you might have had for lunch. Let's get into it.
So this is the big question for today. What in the world connects biodynamic farms, holistic wellness, and a vegan burger? I mean, on the surface, they seem like they're in totally different universes, right? You've got a very specific way of farming, a general approach to health, and a modern food trend. But it turns out, there's a single, powerful thread that ties them all together.
And believe it or not, that thread leads all the way back to a pretty unlikely source, a philosopher and spiritual thinker who is doing his thing over 100 years ago. It's a pretty amazing story about how ideas can just ripple through time and end up shaping our world in ways we don't even see.
So, meet Rudolf Steiner. Now, what's so wild about this is the time frame. We're talking late 19th, early 20th century, and yet his ideas have had this incredible staying power, kind of quietly influencing everything from education to agriculture all the way up to today.
Okay, so Steiner came up with this really complex worldview he called spiritual science. Now, it can seem a little dense at first, I get it, but we're going to break down the key ideas because they're absolutely crucial to understanding everything else.
The official name for his whole philosophy is Anthroposophy. And really, at its heart, it's all about a path of knowledge. This isn't about just believing something blindly. No, it's about actively developing the entire human being, finding that perfect balance between our physical body, our inner life, our soul and spirit.
To do that, Steiner saw us as being multi-layered. First up, you've got the physical body. That's the easy part, the stuff we can see and touch. Then he said there's the etheric or life body. Think of it as the vital force, the energy that animates us. On top of that is the astral body, which is kind of the home for our consciousness, our feelings, our desires. And finally, at the core is the ego, that little spark of self-awareness that makes you.
So you might be asking, okay, why bother with all these layers? Well, for Steiner, the point wasn't to escape the physical world and float off into some spiritual realm. It was actually the exact opposite. The whole goal was to become fully conscious and spiritually aware while we're right here, grounded in our everyday lives.
He also saw our personal growth as this big balancing act. Now, he used his own symbolic terms for two forces that are always pulling at us. On one side, he had what he called the Luciferic force. Think of it as this chaotic, spiritual, creative energy. And on the other side, the Armenic force, which is all about rigid, cold, material logic. For Steiner, real human growth wasn't about picking a side. It was about finding that healthy balance right smack in the middle.
All right, so that's all the theory. But what really makes Steiner so influential is that these weren't just ideas he kept in a book. He was totally insistent on putting them into practice, creating entire real-world systems based on this philosophy.
And this just shows you how far his ideas actually went. They became the blueprint for whole systems you've probably heard of. Waldorf education, that's his. It's all about that holistic, artsy learning. And super important for our story, biodynamic farming. This whole method of treating a farm like it's one single living being.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Now we're going to connect the dots, linking these ideas from a century ago directly to the wellness and food movements that are all around us right now.
Okay, here's where it all clicks. Steiner's biodynamic farming, with its focus on healthy soil and even cosmic rhythms, was basically the direct ancestor of the modern organic and regenerative farming movements. And his whole idea of the human as a balance of body, soul, and spirit, that fits perfectly with today's wellness culture, which is all about mindful living and conscious consumption.
So that means when you pick up an organic apple or choose a plant-based meal because it just feels like a healthier, more conscious choice, you're basically tapping into a philosophical current that's been flowing for more than 100 years. The why behind your choice has some seriously deep roots.
This really brings it all down to a personal level, This isn't just some abstract history lesson. It's about how these big ideas actually show up in our daily lives, and especially in the choices we make about what we eat.
Think about it. Every single time you decide where to eat or what to buy at the grocery store, you're making a statement. You're expressing your values. Maybe you're prioritizing convenience, or health, or community, or ethics. And a lot of the time, those values are lined up with these bigger philosophical ideas, and we don't even realize it.
Let's use a real-world example. Say you're in Los Angeles. Picking a vegan restaurant can actually be a pretty strategic move. Need a quick, casual meetup? Veggie Grill totally works. Want a place with a great vibe for a longer chat? Sun Cafe is perfect. But what if you have a high-stakes dinner with an investor you need to impress? You're going to a high-end spot like Crossroads. Each choice reflects a completely different intention.
Now, we've got to be fair and look at the whole picture. Steiner's work definitely isn't without its critics. His supporters see his philosophy as this incredibly holistic system for personal growth. But on the other side, critics often call parts of his work, esoteric, unscientific, or even pseudoscientific. His ideas really live in this unique space between philosophy, spirituality, and a practical way of life.
But if we had to boil his entire worldview down to one key takeaway, it might be this. The idea that life isn't just a bunch of random things happening. It's a long-term journey of development and learning. And all our actions, all our choices, they build on each other, shaping the path we're on.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If the food we eat and the places we go really are expressions of our values, what is your plate saying about you? What philosophy are you living out one meal at a time? Thanks for tuning in.